Hey guys, it's Celestia, and welcome to Art News, a new iteration of an existing series where I bring you some quick rundowns and summaries of the latest breaking news in the art community. In the past, I've only done art news videos about singular, dedicated topics, like when Clip Studio Paint switched to a subscription model, or when DeviantArt decided to ignore its entire community by proclaiming its undying love for AI art. But I recently asked you guys if you would be interested in a more compilation-esque type of art news video as well, where I discuss and summarize everything significant going on in the art community that's worth noting, but not massive enough to warrant dedicated videos of their own. You guys responded overwhelmingly positively to the idea, so I've decided to make those compilation art news videos a monthly series, where I go over notable art-based developments that have taken place in the prior month. And for this month's compilation, and probably many in the future, I'll be splitting those developments into general art community updates and AI art related updates, because there are just so many of the latter. Every topic will be chaptered into its own section, so you can skip to the section that interests you most if you'd like. Everything I talk about will be simplified and summarized to a degree so that I can go over everything in a reasonable amount of time. But resources will also be in the description and pinned comment for all of it in case you'd like more detailed information about any individual topic. Preamble out of the way, I'm Duchess Celestia, your host of Art News, and it's time to talk about what happened this past month in the art community, starting with general updates first and then moving on to the massive dumpster fire that is the world of AI art developments. And what better place is there to start than with Redbubble, because as some of you may have heard, they've hit a brand new low when it comes to the exploitation of the artists on their platform. If you're unfamiliar with Redbubble, it's a dropshipping platform where artists can upload their work, put it on a wide variety of different types of merch, including everything from stationery to apparel to housewares, and then put that merch up for sale on the Redbubble marketplace. Because it's dropshipped, that means that once the artist puts that merch up for sale, they don't have to do anything else. Redbubble produces the merch only when it's sold, made to order, so the artist only pays for its production when a customer has actually purchased it. And then Redbubble charges them the cost of its production, as well as takes a cut for themselves, and then ships the item directly to the customer, with no interaction necessary between the artist and the customer beyond the initial sale. Because it requires no upfront costs, has an extensive catalog of merch, and has a massive marketplace that allows artists to sell to a wide range of customers even when they themselves might not have a large audience or reach, it's pretty popular as a way to monetize your art with a low barrier of entry. I have a million problems with it, like the massive cut they take from artists and the fact that art theft runs completely rampant there with little to no adequate action taken to stop it, and I don't personally recommend it as a good, reputable, profitable platform by any means. But this video isn't about my opinions, and regardless of my thoughts, a lot of artists do make anything from side hustle pocket money to a full-time living there. That's what makes their new update such a low blow to the art community. They are now categorizing artists into 3 account tiers: Redbubble Standard accounts, Redbubble Premium accounts, and Redbubble Pro accounts. They're deliberately vague about what actually bumps someone up from Standard to Premium or Premium to Pro, but they suggest that it's likely determined by how many sales they make, how consistent those sales are, how long they've been making consistent sales, and how often they're making new merch, although that's not confirmed for sure. Your account can be reclassified at any point at Redbubble's discretion, but you can't actually request a review or reclassification yourself. And if your account is classified as standard, you now have to pay a brand new account fee, which Premium and Pro accounts are exempt from. The fee is taken out of your earnings from every individual sale, based on this fee chart, which thoroughly gouges any artist of their already minimal earnings. Not only that, but if they make under $20 a month, they don't get that money at all. It rolls over into the next month's potential payout until it meets the $20 minimum. I've included the links to several articles explaining how all of this works in more detail in the description, but all of this is basically to say that a platform that already made a massive profit off of the work of small, independent artists is now exploiting them further to make a bigger one, and people are rightfully pissed off about it. Society6 and Etsy have their own fair share of problems, but if you're an artist that uses Redbubble and are looking to switch as a result of this new fee, they're definitely worth considering. But Redbubble are not the only ones exploiting artists. In other news, Bethesda was caught stealing an artist's fan art and using it in their game. In 2020, this artist made this very cool Elder Scrolls fan art and posted it on Tumblr, only to now have found it copied, mirrored, and used as tattoos on a character skin available in-game without their consent, or even any credit given or a mention. Once the devs were called out for this on Twitter, they eventually released a statement, saying, quote, "We are aware of the situation with the ESO fan artist. It was never our intention to include any community fan art without proper credit. We are in contact with the artist and will work with them to make sure that there is a proper proper resolution. The artist, whose work is really cool and you should check out, has confirmed that she is in contact with their team to arrange that resolution, although no further updates have been given on the situation since April 14th. But there's good news in the community too. MSCHF, or MSCHF, a New York-based art collective known for their controversial and consistently entertaining art and media projects, made tax season a little more fun this year by turning it into a dating sim. Tax Heaven 3000 is a visual novel that, while allowing the player to romance a host of charming potential animated partners, gathers all the necessary information to actually file their taxes. And it's not just for show either. Once you're done, it compiles all that information and legitimately files your taxes with the IRS, a feature eloquently advertised with their promise that if you file your taxes in the game, you file your taxes in real life. Honestly, if I wasn't Canadian, I would have 100% played it and done my taxes that way. They also more recently made this new Matrix-style chat site where an AI can rate how hot you are, so that's sure something too. It's designed to have as little bias as possible when judging your hotness level, quote-unquote, objectively, and then pairs you with someone equally attractive. You can read about how it works in the resources in the description if that's something that interests you. Finally, what about the fine art world's news? Well, as it turns out, the answer is a lot of accidental destruction. This shiny little guy is from Jeff Koons' Balloon Dog series, and he's worth $42,000 US. Or he was, until someone accidentally gave his pedestal a little bonk at a Miami art fair, and now he's a pile. But apparently he's a pile that's still somehow a fine art piece of its own, because art collectors who like the story behind his tragic death think that's the real art and want to buy him anyway, so there's a silver lining, or a blue and silver lining, I guess. He's not the only piece of fine art to accidentally meet an early demise though, although the second to follow in his footsteps was a lot funnier. The infamous art exhibit that's just a banana duct taped to a wall, accurately named Comedian, has now been eaten a second time. That's right, this isn't the first time it's happened. The first time was a very deliberate action from a guy who had traveled the world and witnessed how many people were going without food, and thought it was ridiculous that this artist had the privilege, in comparison, to tape some bananas to walls and sell them for massive profits. Him eating it was, as he put it, actually performance art in response to it, which he even named Hungry Artist. This second dude, on the other hand, was literally just hungry, and there were no security measures in place to suggest to him that this banana was art, so he ate it, an absolute icon. Apparently it was fresh, he was pleased with it. No one was really bothered by this, according to reports, because it took only half an hour to replace, and is regularly switched out with a new banana every 2 to 3 days anyway, with ridiculously specific instructions, like it being 68 inches above the ground and at a 37-degree angle. The artist himself does not give a single shit, claiming that eating the banana cannot destroy it because, and I quote, "the banana is the idea." It also comes with a certificate of authenticity, which I think is probably what the owners and galleries actually value and why it really can't be destroyed. But regardless, long story short, Forbidden Banana Tasty, Volume 2. But now that we've gone over all the general art community news, let's talk about the elephant that's pretty much always in the room at this point and apparently never willing to pay rent. AI art and what's new with it, because there's a lot. First off, for better or worse, it's gotten a lot better. Here's an AI-generated image of Donald Trump and Barack Obama playing basketball from March of last year. Predictably horrifying. Here's an image from March of this year, generated by putting the exact same prompt into the exact same generator. It's hard not to find that kind of improvement terrifying. What's more, a recent Midjourney update has effectively confirmed that its biggest weakness has been, to some extent, overcome: hands. Everyone knows AI has always struggled to generate hands, usually creating some nightmarish amalgamation of fingers straight out of PTSD radio, but that is apparently not the case, and this update has so thoroughly fixed that weakness that articles reporting on it actually warn people to be extra critical of any political imagery posted online, because of the severity of the threat of easily created deepfakes. And naturally, all of that improvement has unsurprisingly resulted in AI art generation being used as dishonestly as possible, because why would it not be, and often putting real artists out of work. In the case of Netflix Japan's new anime short film, The Dog and the Boy, they decided it would be a super cool move to use AI to generate all the backgrounds for it. With an astonishing lack of shame, they announced the following: "As an experimental effort to help the anime industry, which has a labor shortage, we used image generation technology for the background images of all 3-minute video cuts." Adding insult to injury, the actual human being who assisted the AI in making it all wasn't even credited as anything more than plus human. They faced a lot of backlash for it, given that there just straight up isn't a labor shortage in the anime industry, and there were a million artists that would have killed for that job, and they obviously just wanted to cut corners and avoid having to pay them for it. And that's not the only example of AI infiltrating animation either. Corridor Crew, an LA-based studio, is claiming to democratize creativity with their new 7-minute anime film. And not only are people pissed off at them for deliberately choosing to avoid paying actual artists to animate their project, they're also just deeply unimpressed with that project itself. To be blunt, it's janky as hell. I can't show it because of copyright issues, but it is linked in the description if you're interested. They didn't actually use generative AI to make it, but rather transformative AI that made live-action recorded scenes look animated. But it's not good. It's so deeply uncanny valley, the lighting is completely inconsistent, the faces are dead-eyed and hollow and borderline unsettling, everything is constantly morphing, it's a mess. You get what you pay for, I guess, and they sure as hell didn't pay artists, so it's not a shocker. There are also at least 2 instances of AI art being deceptively used as book covers, so that's awesome. Tor, the publisher, not the browser, recently tried to pass off this book cover as human-made, only to be quickly called out for the fact that it was actually generated by AI and posted to a stock image website, at which point Tor's art director ostensibly took it, edited it, and passed it off as theirs. They addressed this with the following statement. Tor Books designed the cover for Fractal Noise by Christopher Paolini. During the process of creating this cover, we licensed an image from a reputable stockhouse. We were not aware that the image may have been created by AI. Our in-house designer used the licensed image to create the cover, which was presented to Christopher for approval. Due to production constraints, we have decided to move ahead with our current cover. Tor Publishing Group has championed creators in the SFF community since our founding and will continue to do so. It's hard to say if they were aware all along and are just now backtracking to cover their asses, if their art director lied to them and they're just cleaning up that mess, or if the stock site actually is to blame. But the bottom line is that it happened, and that means there's a problem, no matter what part of the production pipeline is to blame for it. Similarly, Clarkesworld magazine was apparently tricked into using AI-generated art for one of their covers, despite their strict no AI policy. Once it was brought to their attention that it was AI-generated, they removed and replaced it pending the results of their investigation into the accuracy of the claims of its generation. So at least this bad story has a good ending. The artist who submitted it to them signed a contract that included a statement that the work was not generated or assisted, meaning that artist allegedly lied to them and misrepresented AI-generated art as their own. So in this case, it's not a case of corporate corruption, but rather the dishonest and deceptive use of AI on behalf of its creator, which is honestly just as disheartening. But it's not all bad news. Even in the world of AI art, there's actually quite a bit of good news when it comes to the fight against it, starting with Glaze, a new tool designed to protect artists' work from being reproduced by AI. True to its name, it adds an almost invisible layer to the artist's finished piece, using style cloaking modifications that are designed to fool the pattern-finding capabilities of AI art generators. The layer that's added makes subtle changes that tricks AI into thinking your style is actually the style of a well-established artist like Da Vinci or Van Gogh, making the generator unable to distinguish between their style and the artist's own, ruining any potential results. You can find a much better explanation of how it works in the resources linked in the description, but the point is that it's a very effective, free way to protect your art from AI reproduction, and that's a win. And there's another win too. While many artists don't want any AI art generators to exist at all, we kind of have to accept that they're going to anyway. So if that's the case, better regulation of their uses and more ethical iterations of them are the best we can really hope for. That's why Adobe Firefly, Adobe's AI image generator, has the potential to be the best version of a bad thing. Like, AI art generation in and of itself is contentious, ethically speaking, regarding its impact on actual artists, so it's more of a not good but at least less bad situation. That said, that's still something. Unlike models using Lion 5B, which was trained on art and images whose owners did not consent to its use for that purpose, and is subsequently able to replicate copyrighted material, Adobe Firefly is only trained on Adobe stock images, meaning no copyright infringement is involved. As they put it, if you asked it to create Mickey Mouse, it wouldn't know how, but it does still know how to make a mouse. Would I personally rather them just not make an AI art generator? Yes, but they're going to, and they have, and at least they seem to be doing it ethically so far. In other news, despite sites like DeviantArt constantly consistently disappointing the community with their seemingly unending support of AI art, others are not following suit and are instead restricting and even outright banning it. Inkblot, an art-focused social media platform, is leading the charge in terms of fighting back against it, tweeting the following: "Reminder, AI prompt images do not make you an artist. AI images are not welcome on Inkblot. We will remove any AI content. Please leave our community alone." Absolutely demolished. We love to see it. Ko-fi has also banned AI art from their Discord server and has some very promising rules in place regulating it, which I'll read out here. It is against Ko-fi's terms to scrape content from the Ko-fi platform. This includes scraping for the purpose of training AI models. The following uses in relation to AI-generated content are also strictly prohibited: AI models that have been trained to engage in explicit adult activities / acts, AI-generated content that uses the likeness of known individuals, e.g. celebrities, for not safe for work purposes, and content generated from AI models which have been trained using artists' work without their consent, which is everything trained on Lion 5P. Pixiv, a Japanese art-sharing platform, is also developing new rules and regulations restricting the posting of AI art, specifically focusing on taking stronger action against people uploading AI-generated art in the style of individual artists and claiming it to actually be that artist's work. A brand new and terrifying form of impersonation that I'm very happy to see them being so diligent about disallowing. Finally, there's Artstation, and while they do allow the posting of AI art, they also have a pretty good new filtering system that allows you to filter out anything made with AI from your feed, as well as a tagging system that they explain best, saying, quote, "Artstation has released an update to our platform and terms of service, giving you more control over how your work may be used. When you tag your projects with no AI, Artstation will automatically assign an HTML no AI meta tag. This will explicitly disallow the use of your content by AI systems. We've also updated our terms of service to prohibit companies from using no AI tagged content to train AI art generators." There are also two very significant lawsuits that have the potential to redefine the future of AI art regulation in a very good way. And while the details would take me a long-ass time to explain, I've linked tons of relevant documentation in the resources for anyone who's interested in learning about them, including the actual court documents in some cases. What matters, ultimately, is that in the case of both lawsuits, the companies responsible for AI art generators being trained on images stolen from artists that are therefore capable of copying and recreating their work are liable to be held legally accountable for that. And while Stability AI has moved to recently dismiss them, that hasn't happened yet. And it's also telling that they're seemingly working very hard to avoid their legal obligation to allow for the discovery process accompanying the case, meaning they appear to be effectively trying to hide their training data sets in an effort to allegedly bury the full extent of their copyright infringement. No significant updates on that yet, but that will inevitably change in future art news videos, and hopefully these cases will result in a change in copyright legislation in favor of artists, not AI. In fact, that change is already underway. As of recently, AI has been ruled as ineligible for copyright in the United States. The US Copyright Office recently released a new statement of policy, linked in the resources in the description, regarding the copywriting of works made with generative AI. As that statement puts it, quote, "These technologies, often described as generative AI, raise questions about whether the material they produce is protected by copyright, whether works consisting of both human-authored and AI-generated material may be registered, and what information should be provided to the office by applicants seeking to register them. These are no longer hypothetical questions." After author Krish Kashtanova claimed to be the first person to ever receive a copyright on AI-generated work with her comic, all of the imagery for which was generated by AI, the Copyright Office formally put the decision to approve that copyright under review, and the result of that review was a cancellation of the initial certification and the issuing of a new one. The new certification stated that only the aspects of the work that Kashtanova actually made herself, that being the writing, would be protected by copyright. All of the AI-generated visuals were deemed ineligible for copyright. That differentiation has been confirmed to be the deciding factor for all future cases, finally legally confirming that only human-made art will be protected by copyright. From now on, copyright officials will have to judge whether or not the original choices executed in a work that's submitted for registration were made by a human or a machine, which, while not always easy, is most definitely a worthwhile endeavor that it's amazing to see be made mandatory. There are still some cases in which AI art is eligible though, and that differentiation basically boils down to whether or not the human creator has sufficiently edited that AI art. The statement of policy reads, quote, "A human may select or arrange AI-generated material in a sufficiently creative way that the resulting work as a whole constitutes an original work of authorship, or an artist may modify material originally generated by AI technology to such a degree that the modifications meet the standard for copyright protection. In those cases, the Copyright Office asserts that only the aspects of the work that have been evaluated to be human-made will be protected, resulting in partial certifications like the case of Kashtanova's comic. It's also now mandatory for anyone submitting their work for copyright certification to disclose whether or not AI was used in its creation, even retroactively. People who already received copyrights for their work without disclosing it now have to do so, prompting their certifications to be similarly reviewed. Overall, this is a huge win for artists, and it's led to another huge win that a lot of you probably clicked on this video to hear about. Video games are banning AI art. Video game director and freelance artist Trent Kaniuga, who has worked for Blizzard, Riot Games, Capcom, and Epic Games, has confirmed that many video game companies are now contractually demanding artists not to use AI in their work, and that's because of copyright. If a video game company can't be assured that its assets are actually self-created and wholly owned, then that could mean massive problems for them in the future that would be very, very, very expensive to resolve. On Twitter, Trent wrote, quote, "AI art is now banned by many major game dev studios due to possible legal copyright issues. Many old clients are amending contracts recently to end the use of AI art. This goes in line with what I'd predicted in several of my first videos on the subject." To my knowledge, he hasn't confirmed exactly what companies he's referring to with this statement, but based on him saying many old clients, and him having worked for Blizzard, Riot Games, Epic Games, and Capcom, I think it's safe to say that it's probably some big names in the industry. And since the US Copyright Office literally confirmed that video games made using AI art would not be fully eligible for copyright, that's not exactly surprising. And that means that a lot of artists in the gaming industry who were fearing for their jobs with the rapid growth of AI art can finally take a much needed breath of relief. Not because companies actually care about them and want to employ them, mind you, but because now they legally have no choice. There's still the very likely outcome that they'll end up using that partial certification stipulation to use as much AI as they can anyway, like how Ubisoft is currently developing its own AI to write NPC dialogue called Ghostwriter, but it's still a huge step in the right direction. And to end on a hopeful note, we might not have to rely exclusively on the law to make companies make the right choices when it comes to employing artists either. Sometimes, once in a blue moon, they actually value artists enough to choose to hire them instead of using AI because they genuinely want to. That's the case for Paizo, the RPG publisher responsible for creating Pathfinder and Starfinder. They've completely disavowed AI-generated art and banned it altogether, and for the right reasons, elaborated on in their statement that reads, quote, "Over the last few months, the world has seen a huge upsurge in interest, use, and quality of algorithm-generated imagery and text. Since we launched the company in 2002, Paizo has made its reputation with the assistance of countless traditional artists and writers, who are just as integral to the success of our games as our in-house editors, art directors, designers, and developers. The ethical and legal issues surrounding AI art and writing prompt programs, and the serious threat they pose to the livelihoods of partners who have helped us get to where we are today as a company, demand that we take a firm position against the use of this technology in Paizo products. In the coming days, Paizo will add new language to its creative contracts that stipulate that all work submitted to us for publication be created by a human. We will further add guidance to our Pathfinder and Starfinder Infinite Program FAQs, clarifying that AI-generated content is not permitted on either community content marketplace. Our customers expect a human touch to our releases, and so long as the ethical and legal circumstances surrounding these programs remains murky and undefined, we are unwilling to associate our brands with that technology in any way. Stated plainly, when you buy a Paizo product, you can be sure that it is the work of human professionals who have spent years honing their craft to produce the best work we can. Paizo will not use AI-generated, creative work of any kind for the foreseeable future. We thank the human artists and writers who have been so integral to our success in the past, and we look forward to working with them for many years to come. I am personally so impressed by this response, and it makes me so hopeful for the future of artists in a world full of AI threatening to deprive us of our livelihoods. Some companies need to be forced not to. Others, like Paizo, choose not to because they actually care, and that genuinely brings me so much joy. And that brings me to the end of our first episode of a brand new segment of Art News. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments so that I can figure out whether or not this type of content is something you want to see more of in the future. Thank you all so much for watching, and special thank you as always to channel members Cafe Soleil, Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Juho Usi Hakimo, and Art of Amethyst Fable, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Lou Swanson, Cora Fear, Jamisha Walker, Elengshi, Soul Crystal, Kim Yu Yen, Shamil Sheep, Crazy Hisar, Gentong, Jacobus Peterson, Grayson Xavier, Milkbean, Eeyore Heehaw, MG, Blahmage, TC Pratt, Finn, Grim Spectre, Stephen Jett, and Ash W for their support, and I'll see you in the next one.